Welcome back. I'm Mike Festiva. This is Fusion 360 2D Drawing for Beginners. This is part 3. I hope you've seen part 1 and part 2 will lead you up to building confidence how to get to this level. And we're going to do a few more complex tools here. Nothing too crazy, but you should be able to follow along with and learn quite a bit. We're going to start off with a hole pattern tool to make like a flange for like a hydraulic tank or maybe wheel spacers for a vehicle or something like that. Then we'll move on to, say you're working on a mini bike or go-kart, or just want to mount a 6.5 horsepower engine, like a Predator engine, onto something like that. Something that we're going to make an engine plate with slots on it so you can slide the motor back and forth to tension a belt or chain. And then third, we'll get into a few gussets, and I'll show you how I like to nest parts. Real simple. And probably have a few more drawing series on this, and then we'll get into extruding the parts and going through the tool pass, and then finally cutting out some parts in a future episode. So stick around, enjoy the video. Alright, so I just opened up Fusion 360, like we're just starting off, and we had some existing files. We're going to access those files right up here, show data panel, and here we go. This is a file. Left click twice on it. There's our existing file we already had. You're going to hit top view over here, and for some reason if you hit the wrong button, you can turn it. We're actually looking straight onto the file, so you can use these arrows over here to figure out where you're at and rotate it, things like that. So here's some existing files we already had drawn, and what we want to do now is we want to go over on top of any of them, and we want to right click once, and we want to go down to edit sketch. We push that. Now we can actually change dimensions on these parts and draw them up. This is the flange we're going to actually draw. 6-bolt flange. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to our tools. We're going to go for center, diameter, circle. Click that. We're going to come over here, and we're going to actually make that 2 inches. Push 2 and then enter. And then what we're going to want to do is go over to our line tool, and we're going to want to hit X to create a construction line rather than a drawing line. Zoom in a little bit. We're going to come up 1.5 inches. Enter. Then we're going to use escape to take that tool off. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the circle, center diameter circle again, right on that little end point of the construction line. Backspace, 0.297, enter. So we don't want that construction line for the future, so we're going to click on it, and we're going to hit X. Now we got a draw line. That's good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go up to center diameter circle again, click on the center, pull it out to whatever you want. We got a construction line again. I need to toggle that off later. We want to do 4 inches, 4, enter. Click on that. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the drop down to create. We're going to go down here. Last time we used a rectangular pattern. We're going to go to circular pattern. Click on that. Now over here it says object, center point. So what we want to do is we actually want to highlight this first circle we made up here. That's going to be our object. And then we're going to select center point. And select that there. Now how many holes do we want to have in this flange? It's set for 3. Let's do 6 here. Simple as this. Hit 6. There's our array of 6. Now we can hit enter or OK. Okay, so what happened there was it actually just highlighted the center points. We don't want just the centers on there. We'll go back through that again. I'll show you what we did different here. Circular pattern. Want to highlight just the outer ring of this. Okay, select center point. Gonna go for 6. There we go. Now we just hit enter or OK. There we got our hole pattern. So that's as simple as that. We can go back through and push T for trim. Left click, trim that off there. Trim the other construction line. Just kind of cleans up the drawing quite a bit. So there we got a flange. Hit escape to take that tool off. Simple as that. So as you can see, you can make simple little wheel spacers if you're working on a project or a quad or anything. You want to make some 1/4 inch wheel spacers for bigger tires of wheels or a car or anything. Hydraulic tank flanges, whatever you want. It just gives you the idea how to use the center tool here for like circular patterns, the hole patterns, and you can put any number of holes from 3 on up, I think. So it's a pretty useful tool, and I've used it quite a bit. I used it for actually making the center point for the articulated dump truck, because because I used a Ford F350 center bearing. So I had to cut basically what would be the pattern of a wheel pattern for that. And it worked out great. All right, we will move on to another part here. We're going to start working on a Predator, a slotted engine base for maybe a go-kart chassis or anything like that if you want to mount a 6.5 horsepower engine on. So we'll get to that next. Okay, so here's the part we're going to draw now. It's an engine plate for like a Predator engine. And I got on the Harbor Freight website and they actually had bolt pattern specs on here, and it was 6.38 inches by about 3 inches. So we're going to make a slotted engine plate that will support an engine if you're working on a go-kart or anything. So we're going to draw this here. So we're going to go over to the side. We're going to go up to create, and we're going to go down to slot. And we're going to move over to center slot is the one we want. So we're going to go over here and we're going to left click. Going to bring this out to, we're going to put 1, enter. Now you don't see a slot on there. That's because we got to open it up and widen it here. So what do we want to make this? I think we're going to make this 23 64ths. Enter. Now we got that first slot there. Now what we're going to want to do is actually copy it and move it over. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in here, and we're going to left click on that once. Now we're going to right click it once we highlighted it. We're going to go to the move. So we're going to highlight every one of these 4 parts of this. Now we're going to hit copy, and we're going to move it over to this direction. And we're going to move it over 6.38 of an inch. So 6.38, enter. Now we got a slot moved over here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually highlight all these, and we're just going to copy up. So I'm going to highlight these. Instead of going through and clicking 8 individual pieces, we're actually going to go and left click and hold and drag and box these in. Now we're going to let go, left click, and we're going to go over the part, and we're going to right click to move. Now we're going to hit copy, and then we're going to hit the arrow up, and we want to come up 3 inches. We're going to hit 3, and then we're going to push enter. So there we got our hole pattern, slot pattern here, which is super useful for building anything you need adjustments for belts or anything like that. So now we're going to make our overall engine plate 4.5 inches by 9.5. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the line tool, and we're going to actually hit X for construction line. We're going to come over to the side hole right here, and we're going to do a cross right to this. So we got a nice angle sloping from that hole to that outer hole there. Now we're going to hit exit to remove that drawing tool on there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to line again. We're going to find the center. Fusion is pretty good because if you come up or down the center, we'll see that means we're in the center of that line. So I'm going to actually just drag this straight up. Anywhere in here is fine, and hit left click again. Now exit to take that tool off of there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to draw a rectangle. So we're going to draw our 2-point rectangle tool. Going to click on that. We still got a construction line on over here, so I'm going to hit X to take that off. I'm going to click anywhere around here. We're going to drag this out. We want it to be 9 inches, so we're on that box. We're going to hit 9, and now we're going to hit tab on the keyboard, and we're going to put 4.5, enter. Now we got that part there. Now we got to get it over here. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back to create. We're going to go to point. And what we're going to do is see we just found that center of that line. We're going to want to find the center of this line. Once we do that and the computer recognizes it, we can bring it up and it's going to tell us where the centers of all those are. We're going to left click once. Now we added a little point there. Going to push escape. Now what we're going to do is we're going to drag left click and drag over the whole entire box and then let go. We're going to push right click, move, and then what we're going to want to do up here is going to want to go to this with the 2 dots and the arrow going down to them. Once we click on it, it says point to point. An origin point, we're going to actually select this one we just put on there, and then it instantly drops us down to a target point, which we're going to want to not hit that node right there, that point. We're going to hit this one right in the center. There we go. We got the engine plate right over the slot, so we're going to hit OK. Now last we want to do is we want to come up here to fill it. We're going to fill these corners. We're going to go over here. left click again, 1/2 inch. We're going to go around all the corners here. Keep clicking them, left click, get to the last one, left click, and hit enter. So now we got our engine plate. Now we can just go through and use the T for trim tool. Trim these. As you guys see, I'm using more shortcut hotkeys because I'm thinking you are all probably using these by now a little bit, and if you're not, it speeds things up quite a bit. Here's one more thing. Clean that up. Now I'm gonna hit escape. Now we got our engine plate there. So simple as that. Basically, you can bolt your engine on here and you can slide it forward and back 1 inch. If you want to slide it forward and back 1.5 inches, you just make the slots longer and make the engine plate a little bit bigger. Simple. I hope those little tools really help you out. And finally, we're going to get on to making some gussets, and I'll show you how I like to nest them, because sometimes you'll make multiple gussets on a project and you can nest them around your other parts, and it'll give you the simple idea how we do it. Let's get onto those gussets next. Okay, so we're going to draw some simple gussets here, and I'll also show how to copy and paste them. I like to do this for nesting parts and other parts and pieces, so we'll get to that now. Going to go up to line, going to go anywhere on here, going to come down 2.5 inches, so 2.5, enter. I'm going to start using the hotkeys a little more. I think I highly recommend you start using them too. So instead of going up here for line, we're just going to start pushing L on the keyboard. Much faster. 2.5, enter. Going to come up 0.25, so 1/4 inch, enter. L, 0.25, enter. Now we'll zoom in. One thing I want to point out about zooming in and out, wherever your cursor is, it will zoom in. So say we want to zoom into this measurement, we put it right over it. And as we roll the top button, the roller button in, it will zoom right into that location. You want to back out. So that's what, if you're kind of zooming in, you're like, why is it going off my drawing? It's because your cursor's off the drawing when you're rolling. So wherever you point that, you want to zoom into this corner, you just roll it in while you keep your cursor pointed right over there. So that's a helpful little tip right there. So we're going to zoom in. Now we're going to put L on here again. We're just going to do a 45. Left click, drag down. There we go. We got a gusset. But one thing I want to do is I want to fix this corner up. And the reason is, if you're actually welding on, say, 2 plates together, like an L plate down here and a plate up here, you're going to run a bead of weld down the center of that thing, or right in the, where the plates come together. And if you have a 45 in there, you're going to have to grind off the inside edge of the 45, or you're not going to have to weld in that area. I'd much rather do a whole weld down that, and I would just like to modify my 45 so it sits above the weld. So we're going to take care of that now. So zoom in here, and what we're going to do is push L for line. I'm going to come back to, say, around about like this. I'm not going to get too scientific on this measurement. There we go. Now we're going to hit the escape tool or key, and then we're going to push T for trim. Trim these 2 lines. Again, I'm using more hotkeys on this one. Hopefully you guys are keeping up with that. So I hit the T for trim. Now we're going to push the escape key to get out of there. There's our gusset. Keep in mind, these are just reference measurements. We're going to scoot these out of the way. We can even take them off over on the side over here. I think there's one of these. Okay. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go over to the side over here, higher than this location and further off than that. And we're going to left click and we're going to hold it. And we're going to box this whole section in. We just drew this gusset. Once we got the whole thing boxed in, we're going to let off, left click, and then we're going to go over the part and we're going to right click. Now we're going to go right to move/copy. Going to come down to the edge here, and if this is, sometimes you have to roll down on the edge. Sometimes this opens up as a full box, sometimes it's just a little strip, so you have to roll down on the side. Mine's is a full box here, but you're going to hit create copy. And then here's a little tip for you guys. If you zoom out and you grab one of these arrows, it's going to make larger jumps to the grid. If you zoom in, it's going to make finer movements. So that's a little tip. If you use that arrow, it's only going to go side to side. If you use this arrow, it's only going to go up and down. This is freehand move, so you can move it anywhere you want. And then you can also put in a measurement, like we can backspace, put 2, jumps it over 2 inches. then this rotates it. So we're going to grab this part right up here and rotate this whole piece. We're going to rotate 180 degrees, it says it right there. And we're going to bring this thing in. Going to line this top and bottom up of this gusset here, just to kind of be efficient with metal. And we're going to slide this over. I like to leave, say, maybe about an 1/8 inch or so between the parts. When I'm cutting them, I found that my cuts will turn out a lot better if I actually leave a little bit of wasted strip of metal down the center of them. So the plasma will come through here, cut this gusset out, and then it's going to move over to this side and cut this gusset out. It's going to leave a little strip of metal, a little less than an 1/8 inch. I find that if you nest your parts up really close, the plasma comes down, cuts one of your parts out, comes over to the other side and cuts the other part out down that same cut line. You get a lot more slag in your parts and more of a jagged edge. So I'm all right spoiling a little bit of, leaving a little bit of wasted metal on there to get nicer quality parts. So we got it where we want. We're going to hit OK. Then what we're going to want to do is we're going to actually want to grab this stuff again. So we're going to go over up above the corner here and we're going to push left click, hold it down. Going to pull it over, box this whole area in, let up. And we're going to go over any of the parts and right click. Move copy. This is repetition. Hopefully it's kind of working with you guys here from memory. Going to go over create copy. And we're going to slide this up. Let's see, what do I like this at? I want to, let's go for 2.62. Yeah, that looks good. We're going to hit OK. So we got our 4 parts right here. So that's how I like to nest things. So if you imagine you make a lot of complex parts and pieces, and there's some openings and gaps between a bunch of different parts, you can nest these things in however you want. You can grab a gusset, rotate them, fit them in wherever. So what I like to usually do, if I want like 6 or 8 gussets on a bigger complex drawing, I will draw 1 gusset on the side. And say you got little slots and open areas in the drawing, you can fit each gusset. You can copy it, make a copy. You can slide it down, rotate it until you fit it in between 2 other parts. And then you hit OK and you go back, grab a gusset, copy it. So you can always keep your original one on the side and you can slide it around and fit it in and nest it in all your other parts. I don't mind manually nesting. I think this program has a nesting feature in it. I've never used it. I find that I can kind of set the whole metal grid up how I want and I don't mind it. It doesn't take very long. So that's how you nest the parts here. So that about wraps up part 3 for Fusion 360 2D drawing for beginners. I hope you learned a lot. I highly recommend going back through and looking over these videos, especially the first and second if you're totally new to this. And I go through the steps a lot slower on those videos so you can follow along and draw out the parts. This one I'm using a little bit more shortcut keys, so you need to get kind of comfortable with that. This is a little bit quicker pace, but you'll get faster and faster at it. So highly recommend going over these and just drawing them. You can go through the parts and finish up, and just if you want to delete the part, you box them in like I just did on here with the left click, and you can go over the part, any of them that you box in, right click, and then go down to delete, and it will take all those parts that you just highlighted off there. You can just keep drawing them again if you want. Not a big thing. So I hope everyone enjoys it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. I'd appreciate that. YouTube isn't really promoting this video, nor is most of my subscribers watching it, which is fine. I can't expect most of my subscribers to actually be interested in learning any CAD. But it's one of those things, whether you're going to get one of those CNC tables like the Langmuir that I use, or you just want to learn it for drawing up parts and pieces, it's pretty cool to be able to design parts and get exact measurements on things. And it's just kind of a helpful thing, I think, with CNC equipment becoming much more available for all of us, whether into like woodworking, you want to get a wood route or anything like that. All this stuff is going to help you in that direction. I would like to get a plastic printer one of these days and actually start printing some more plastic parts for different projects in my shop, but that's going to come down the road. I'm already swamped with all my projects and learning curve and all this different stuff, so that's in the future at some point. Or maybe I can find one of my subscribers can put out an awesome series on using the plastic printer. If you have one, I would love to see that, because I know nothing about that yet. But like I said, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and if you're interested in this video enough or where you think one of your friends would like it, please share it with someone else if you want. Helps promote the channel. All right, until next time, take care everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye.